Hello, I'm back here again to create another video. So today we're actually going to be going over the new unit that just released today, Jinque. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. I'm white. So I'm kidding. So, anyways, Jinque is a new red AoE DPS. I'm pretty sure I would consider her the only red AoE DPS outside of Curse teams. We did, as you can see, we did pull for her. We did get her to 6 stars. We gave her some pretty decent gear, and we tried her out in a few modes, just trying to feel out her damage. So today, in this video, the main thing I want to cover is Jinque, what she does, what her star ups are. Generally, should you pull for this character here, right? And then we'll probably revisit a couple of the other characters from this patch very briefly, because the existence of Jinque does change one of them in particular quite a bit in terms of pull value. Um, so I'm going to go into it a lot more in depth, but for people that don't want to watch like probably a 30-minute video, should you pull for Jinque? I would lean towards yes. Jinque, from initial impressions, she does very good damage. I'm hearing from more relatable players that she also does very impressive damage, even without her star up effects. Um, yes, yeah, her damage profile is just very high, has very high motion values, does very good damage both right off the bat, and does very exceptional damage when she's able to stack her treasures mechanic, which we'll go into depth here in just a moment. But I would say Jinque is a very, very strong AoE DPS, definitely at the very least on par with the big three of AoEs that I perpetuate, which is Selena, Aphros, and Marlena. I definitely think that Jinque fulfills that role pretty well for red. So having a good red AoE option that frees you from curse is going to be, and also just the uniqueness, right? Because like you could argue, like for example, for Marlena, oh, I could just use like I don't know Scarlet and cope. With Aphros, you could say I could use Minami and cope. But with Jinque, it's like unless you literally have a fully fleshed out curse team, which requires you to get Dorothy, which requires you to get Trixie, which requires you to ideally get Yunkin to 5 stars, right? Um, it's you don't really have an option. This is your only option for AoE, and she's good. So I would say that her pull value is pretty good, pretty good. So let's kind of go more in depth about that. Look at her kit, look at her star ups, look at other various facets of information, right? So Jinque's kit pretty much revolves around her self buff, which is treasures. Um, so I guess let's take a look at her skill 1 first to kind of get a grasp of what these treasures are. So this is a single target skill, technically. So she unleashes 2 attacks. They deal jab damage. Each hit goes to a random enemy, so it's not all the attacks go to one random enemy. Each attack picks a random enemy. It's just like random missiles that shoot out. If enemies are hit by subsequent hits of this ability, they get reduced by 35% and then 70%, and it caps at 70, right? And then for every 14 stacks of treasures this combatant has, you get an additional 2 hits. So at 14 stacks of treasures, you get 4 hits, right, instead of 2. So it's pretty solid. Does pretty good damage. Actually does give her like a solid single target damage profile as well, if you are able to stack her treasures quickly enough. So that is something to consider. We have her skill B. So this does typeless damage. Thankfully, to make up for this, the motion value is actually quite high, like 108%. That's pretty high for an AoE ability. For reference, a jab AoE at 1 star usually does like 72%. So you do 108% to all enemies, and you get a stack of treasures for each target hit. So obviously, this card's going to be much more favorable to use in 3 target, 5 target content, right? And conveniently enough, Nightmare's Call is 5 targets right now, so go nuts. And it does stack up to 14 times. This skill does clarify the stack limit for treasures. Additionally, through her passive, Jinque will gain bonus armor pen for every 2 stacks of treasures that she has. So 4% at 0 stars and 6% at 6 stars, right? It scales up. But at 0 stars, if you have max stacks of treasures, 14, you will get 28% pen, which isn't bad. Um, this becomes 42% pen at 6 stars, which is quite good. Um, Now we have her ultimate. So she deals 227% attack. Again, this is a high motion value for an AoE ultimate. As piercing damage to all enemies. So not jab, piercing. It ignores endurance. So piercing's not great, but again, it has a higher motion value, so it makes up for this. And also, it gives you 5 stacks of treasures, which is great. It kind of, by the time you get your ultimate, generally you can use this to pass the 14 threshold in a lot of scenarios. Um, it's quite good. It's quite good. So we have all these abilities that can deal quite a bit of damage. They're well statted, good motion values, everything like that. So what do her star up effects do? So when you get her to 1 star, when you use Hidden Force, which is this card right here, you gain treasures for each instance of damage dealt. So normally you only get treasures through her AoE card and her ultimate. With 1 star, you can also get treasures through her single target skill. So you'll gain 2 stacks initially, and then at 14 treasures, you would gain 4 stacks, which is redundant until later on. But it just gives her more consistency with being able to stack her treasures, right? And again, given how quickly it seems she can stack to 14, especially with various supports like Fata, um, it seems kind of redundant until you look at her 4-star effect, which is pretty simple. Just increases the stack limit of treasures from 14 to 28. This seems simple on paper, but it does have a lot of implications. It gives you a lot more payoff to setting up well, having a Fata, having the 1 star to give you extra treasures, funneling abilities into Jinque. Obviously, this can now double your passive. So at 4 stars, it's going to be at 5%. So instead of being at 5 times, instead of being at 35% at max, you can go to 28 and you can have 70% pen, right? And this 6 stars goes from, or 5 stars, sorry, goes from 42 to 84, which is quite good as well, right? Um, and then also, when you hit 28 stacks, you do get an extra 2 hits of her Hidden Force. So now this is hitting 6 times, and this is becoming a very formidable damage ability. As you start to gain stacks, the Mirror Light will start. The Mirror Light will be stronger earlier on, and the Hidden Force it'll still hit pretty well, but it'll be weaker. And then once you start to stack up, the Mirror Light will start to be the card you don't want to see, and the Hidden Force is going to start hitting hard. Kind of a nice trade-off. Um, so again, another great star up breakpoint. So what about 6 stars? So 6 stars, once she gets 15, which is an odd number, stacks of treasures, her ultimate deals additional damage equal to 30% of the target's missing HP to all enemies, up to 500% of this combatant's attack. So it just adds another motion value. And again, this can be up to 500% attack. So you take like at 0 stars it's 227, at 6 stars it's 323 plus up to 500. It could be an 823% motion value. This ult hits obscenely hard. This ult hits as hard. This ult was hitting as hard, if not harder for me, a Nightmare's Call than a Marlena ult with maxed Astral. This ultimate is insane at 6 stars. This is a very good breakpoint. All of these are good. All of these are great breakpoints. And the thing you're going to ask is, well, some characters, they can feel like they need them to function. That'll happen a lot in this game. And I get the question would be, do you need these? I would say you don't need them. She's perfectly complete at 0 stars. She works pretty well at 0 stars. She's quite good. But her star ups are also insane. So if you have the means, I would recommend, whatever you're able to get for the star up effect on her. They're all very, very good. They all increase. 1 stars for consistency, 4 and 6 stars increase her ceiling dramatically, right? I would definitely consider getting Jinque dupes if you are able to. You don't need them, but you want them, if that makes sense. So now that we've kind of gone over that, like I said, we're going to revisit the characters. I actually want to revisit one of them right now, which is Fata, right? So before, when I made the previous video on patch 1.6, what I ultimately said on should you roll for Fata is hold off, right? Wait. We should see what Fata is going to do. We should see. We should wait for the banner that's obviously coming in 2 weeks, and then see if Fata interacts well with that unit. Because before, Fata only really worked with Triss, and even then, she wasn't really needed in that scenario, right? So now with Jinque, I can kind of have a more favorable stance on rolling for Fata, because Fata is very, very good for Jinque, because obviously Treasures is a stackable buff. So the whole gimmick of Fata being able to grant those stacks quicker, especially since Jinque has a very specific breakpoint that she wants to hit of 14, makes Fata quite good at accelerating her. Also, of course, Fata buffs Pen. Jinque has jab damage on one of her skills. It was quite good. And then Fata is also a jab AoE, so she can be a sort of sub DPS for the comp as well. So I would say, obviously, if you're electing to skip Jinque and you don't have Triss, I mean, you could pull her just in case to see if somebody else comes out that works with her, but I wouldn't bet on that. If you do have Jinque, I would definitely consider rolling Fata. And another interesting question that comes from this is, does Fata, um, ultimately it's does. Okay, sorry. So I guess one of the questions that I had in my mind was, okay, so if you have a Jinque and you don't have Fata, you have Jinque at 0 stars, right? Would it be better to roll Fata, or would it be better to get Jinque's 1 star first? And I actually did create let me pull it up here. I did go ahead and create a little spreadsheet here in regards to so this is a spreadsheet that kind of takes Jinque at 0, 1, and 4 stars for both 1 target, 3 target, and 5 target, and just kind of tracks how many stacks she's generally going to get on turns 1, 2, and 3 using conservative estimates. And then how that changes if you have a Fata and if you have a 1-star Fata. So if we were to look at three target content, right? 3 target content is the most common. So if we look at a 0-star Jinque with 0-star Fata, we'll see that the stack gain here is 4, 8, and then 13. And then we have 5, 10, and then 14 if we have a 1-star Fata or if we have a 1-star Jinque with no Fata. So the stackage will be better, albeit redundant on turn 3. Fata does have the pen buff. Well, no, not redundant on turn 3, I guess. Redundant on turn 4. But Fata obviously can provide the pen buff, but Fata's pen buff isn't really that great. So judging, and then if you look at 3 target, well, 5 target's redundant. Well, 5 target you can actually hit max stacks a turn sooner, and then 1 target, it's a pretty noticeable difference. So I would say if you're looking at this purely from a stacking perspective, I would say that 1-star Jinque is actually better to go for than pulling a Fata. I would probably put the priority at roll Jinque, then get her 1-star, then get Fata, then get Jinque's 4-star, then get Fata's 1-star, then 6-star Jinque, then get the remaining Fata dupes, right? That's the general priority order I would put it in. If you're looking to vertically invest in this team, right? Um, other things about Fata, gear, team comp, stuff like that. So what gear should you run on Jinque? She does deal jab damage, right? But only on one of her 3 cards. So I am still going to recommend crit. You might not be able to get an ideal crit ratio with 6 crit damage pieces. My pieces are pretty good. So you may have to elect to go 2, maybe 4 pieces of crit rate, depending on the strength of your substats, right? But it's going to be a crit rate / crit damage mix. You're not going to go pure pen. It's not good. Maybe if you're playing PvP with Jinque, but I wouldn't recommend that either, just because of the nature of her being a ramping, stacking character, right? So that's generally what I'd recommend for equipment. What would I recommend for team comps? Well, team comps are pretty simple, honestly. Obviously, if you have Fata, you're going to want to use her. Felicia is quite good. Jinque obviously scales off of crit, so Felicia does provide great value here. Also, Felicia plus Fata together can provide decent sustain. As far as your 4th slot, obviously Arena is going to be the default. You can't always put Arena on every team, however, so, thinking of alternatives in mind here, if you need survivability, you could definitely look into something like Anya. If you're looking for maybe a little more damage enabling, you could definitely consider options like Vanilla for card funneling, Scarlet for her pen buff. Manami is always not a bad option either, because she has access to vulnerability and she has access to AoE follow-up attacks, so her damage contribution as a sub DPS isn't bad. I would generally say these 3 slots are core, though. If you don't have Fata, just take one of those recommended options, right, for sustainer sub DPS and throw it in. And then obviously active Kato, just whatever you've got. Passive Kato, whatever you've got. Obviously, the robot one's going to be favored here, but you could go anything. I don't think the Katos matter too much. It's more or less what you're running. Also, another thing to note about Jinque is that Asura has an assist bonus with her, which is nuts, because Asura is usually an insane assist because she has 4 skins. And another thing I wanted to talk about with Jinque is her potential as a single target damage dealer. So we did kind of talk about her hidden force, right, and how it does, it's effectively a single target skill. If you were to fight one enemy, obviously all of the missiles would redirect towards that one enemy, right? And it actually does decent damage, like 200, 300k I was hitting in clan battle, and that was without getting treasure stacks. I was trying to test like a Jinque Black Tea team more in clan battle, which would look like, Jinque, Black Tea, Felicia, Fata. But unfortunately, it's still round 1 of the clan battle, and I almost killed the boss on turn 3. Jinque does pretty decent damage, although I'm gonna have to evaluate it more versus other options. I think Jinque as a single target DPS is definitely a lot more crippled than her potential in AoE if you don't have her 1-star specifically. I definitely think if you're looking at Jinque from a single target lens, you're definitely going to need the 1-star effect, and the reason why I say that is for 2 reasons. Reason 1, obviously your single target skill is reliant on ramp, and you want to be able to ramp as quickly as possible. And B, since you're in single target, obviously it's a 1-target scenario. Her Mirror Light is only granting 1 treasures, so if you don't have her 1-star and you're fighting one enemy, your treasures generation is absolutely horrendous. It's terrible. It's not even worth considering, right? But yeah. Those are pretty much my thoughts on Jinque. So pretty much to kind of sum things up, very good character. very high damage, does very well in AoE, 3 target, 5 target, can even do well in a single target with 1 star. Has great dupes, doesn't need them to be viable unless you're trying to make her a single target DPS, and I would argue you would need her 1 star. Very, very, very good character. It's difficult to say, oh, you must pull this character when half anniversary is coming, and God knows what they're doing for that. But Jinque is very strong, and if you have the ability to get her while not impacting your funds too much, I would definitely recommend pulling her. She's very, very good. Very good. Okay, now, before we wrap up here, I just want to kind of touch up, right, on the other 2 characters in this update. Um, so, Triss, I mean, she's okay. She's very setup reliant. I still think she's a top tier single target DPS, but she seems so like the thing with Triss is she's so complicated to play and very setup reliant, very RNG reliant. I don't think Triss is a must pull at all, honestly. This is kind of a whale toy. I would just use your free pulls that you get from the event, and I wouldn't worry about it too much. She's good, but for a light dark, could be a little better. But she's good, right? Like if you have her, don't regret it, but don't go out of your way to get her. And then Savannah. Oh, she is trash. She is absolutely horrible. She does barely any damage. Her ability to be a defensive unit is terrible because it's a single target provoked that lasts only 1 turn on a basic card. Please, please, please do not make the mistake that I made in Roll Savannah. This is it. Like she's hot, but that's about it. She is genuinely terrible. She is in the running for the worst limited 5 star in the entire game. Do not pull this unit. Do not pull. And this is with 6 stars. She's worse without these star up effects. Do not pull this unit. Do not pull this. Do not pull Savannah. Just use your free pulls on Triss. She's good, but you don't need to go out of your way. Fata's quite good if you have Jinque. Otherwise, eh. And then Jinque, yeah, like pulling for her is pretty good. Um, but as always, thank you so much for watching the video. Um, please let me know if you like the content. I'll continue churning this stuff out as new characters release. I expect there to be a laundry list of things to go over 2 weeks from now, presumably with a half anniversary event. So I will see you guys then.